Welcome to the Uncontested podcast, talking Oklahoma City Thunder basketball and the wider NBA.
Sam Presti said, lower the hatch, load up the cannon, and get the tank out rolling.
Catch new episodes after each Thunder game and every Sunday night.
This is a house of learning doctors.
Follow the Uncontested on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to catch new content as it drops.
I mean, a cat and a dog connected together?
This is Lou Dort. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up? Welcome to the Uncontested podcast, coming to you live Sunday night, October 3rd, 9 p.m. Central Time from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. It is our last podcast before the 2021-22 OKC Thunder take the hardwood. We are a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and the official podcast of SI Thunder. I'm your host for the evening, Jacob Niffen. We've got Justin Peabody and his allergies joining us tonight.
Hello, everybody. I've got like a slightly lower octave. Probably have some intermittent nose blowing. It's pretty exciting times around this house.
We've got Taylor Peterson here.
Last off-season pod.
JD Silva working the magic.
Never enough chocolate, and I can't wait to see more.
What's up?
It's my new favorite sounder.
Oh, yeah, this is awesome.
For anyone not watching the stream, Taylor didn't just randomly interject that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
that's a
was
sounder.
Silva dropping
We
a
have a new
sounder.
sounder. Every time I just rave about Poku, Silva's going to play that sounder every time.
I cannot wait for my favorite one. Silva, you got to cue it up right now. My favorite one is the dog one.
It is
hot
the dog doing?
and sexy and popping. That's a good one. Play the dog one.
Silva's game ready.
What the dog doing?
That one gets me every time. Man.
And the timing when he...
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, like we said at the top of the show, guys, last off-season podcast. 24 hours from the time we are recording this, the Thunder will be probably in the fourth quarter of their first preseason game of the year. Justin, 24 hours from now, start of the fourth quarter of the preseason game. What 5 Thunder players are on the floor?
Oh, gosh. Fourth quarter.
Whatever the end of the bench is. Can we bring back Charlie Brown Jr. before tomorrow?
Yeah.
He probably gets some burn.
I bet fourth quarter tomorrow we see the 3 rookies. Do you think so?
I think that's fair.
I could see that. Maybe not all 3.
Maybe see some Mike Muscala there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see some Trey Mann, the Trey Mann show. Maybe JRE. Kenny Hustle. I mean, it's probably going to look a lot like the end of last season.
I bet. Oh,
which was some not very fun.
Gabriel
lineups.
Deck is 100% in the game.
Deck.
In the fourth
That's
quarter.
a good one. Who's DJ Wilson probably is a good candidate there.
Mama Dia.
And Mama Dia.
Yes.
Mama Dia will be in there in the fourth quarter for sure.
Throw one of the Thunder drummers out there, maybe a Storm Chaser.
God, I hope the Thunder drummers are not around this season.
You hate the drummers? I don't mind the drummers.
The drummers are okay, but I've gone 19 months without a Storm Chaser. Now tomorrow,
the Storm Chasers are.
That's true.
I'm going to be upset. I'm going to get very irked.
They have a lot of ground to make up.
Fire off some tweets about the Storm Chasers.
But Silver brings up a good point. They might be like 12 out of 10 on the hype scale.
Yeah,
we can only hope.
A little ridiculous, but I've got my Vax card uploaded.
There you go.
I'm cleared to get into the building. So
Jacob is vaxxed and waxed and ready for a preseason game.
100%. 100%. So, gentlemen, let's jump in and talk about they have a preseason game tomorrow night, obviously, against the Charlotte Hornets. Next one doesn't come again until next Sunday. They have a 6-day break, which is kind of interesting that they're getting such a long layoff in between 2 preseason games. So we will record, obviously we'll drop this episode. We're going to drop our post-game podcast tomorrow night. So make sure you join us after the game for our live stream and check out the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. We then will not record again until next Sunday night. Maybe we'll throw some midweek something in there just for the hell of it. But not again until next Sunday night, where we will do our post-game podcast of that second preseason game. Plus, next week is the best podcast of the year, the Bets Pod.
Yes.
So get ready, get it fired up, as we will be talking NBA and Thunder bets next season. Cannot wait for it. So, but tonight I want to talk about this Charlotte Hornets game tomorrow, this preseason game, and kind of what are some things that you guys expect from that game and from the preseason in general?
I expect a lot of bad basketball.
Okay.
Not a fair place to start.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, the thing I'm looking forward to the most is some Josh Giddey actual playing time. Given how Summer League went down, I think that's probably where Thunder fans' attention is going to be mostly pent up. Probably Giddey and Poku. See where Poku's at coming out of a full offseason. See what the Muscle Watch has done for him. See what Giddey looks like in NBA action, albeit preseason, but like that's all we've got. He played 5 minutes in the Summer League. Poku didn't play in the Summer League. I think getting a chance to see some real playing time from them is what gives me like a slight amount of interest.
Yeah.
Still not tons of interest. But I think looking forward to seeing both of those guys play and see, kind of where they're at following summer and following, a good chunk of training camp.
I think if you polled Thunder fans, a lot of them would say the two guys they're looking forward to seeing the most, probably Giddey and Poku as well. I think that's probably at the top of the list. But Silva, if you had to choose a third guy you're most interested in seeing in preseason and seeing what they look like, who would you choose?
Probably Darius Bagley, just because
That's a good one.
I'm super curious about his third year, and it's such a pivotal third year for him. I want to see if he flashes. I know it is just preseason, so not everyone's going to be trying the hardest. But offensively, I think it can show off something more than what we've seen at this point.
You'd rather see something good than something bad in preseason, right?
Yep.
Here's my thing in preseason. This really hit home for me, probably 4 or 5 seasons ago. I think before we were ever even doing the podcast. There was 2 straight preseason games where I watched Andre Robertson handle the ball in a pick and roll situation and thought, is this some new little wrinkle? Like Andre got handles in the offseason? And then we never saw it again for the rest of his career. And I was like, oh,
remember
preseason is just a chance for guys to dick around and do stuff that they would never actually get to do.
Well,
I've learned to like pump the brakes on a lot of preseason stuff.
To that point, I think it was 3 seasons ago now, because I was there. It was one of the last preseason game they had in Tulsa prior to COVID. Steven Adams, first play of the game, corner 3.
Yes,
got to see it live.
Yep.
You remember how
from him?
You remember how enthralled we were before the Thunder came, getting a NBA preseason game? Wasn't it like the Lakers and I can't remember who they played, but I remember going to that game and like getting to like
in Oklahoma City,
lay eyes on actual NBA players, and it was like, oh, this is amazing. Like this isn't the Harlem Globetrotters like I usually go watch. This is great.
Yeah.
I remember vividly when Jordan Bell for the Warriors hit a step back 3 or like an off the dribble 3, and everyone lost their mind. They were like, "Oh, Golden State has done it again. They're light years ahead of the rest of the league." What a steal!
Modern day stretch big right there, Jordan Bell.
That is true. Preseason hot takes are second only to Summer League hot takes, so we do have that going for us.
100%. Besides players, well, and we're going to dive more. I guess let's just do it now since we're already talking about players. Specifically, I want to know which player Thunder fans need to watch for in the preseason. We've already prefaced it with you can't take a lot away from the preseason. Guys try stuff that they're not really going to do during the season. But which player specifically? I want one from each of you. Do you think Thunder fans really need to focus on this preseason to kind of get a glimpse of where they are as far as their development? And Taylor, let's get you to kick us off here.
I think this is the low-hanging fruit, but I honestly think it's probably the most critical for OKC at this point. You guys already kind of alluded to him, Poku. It's going to be interesting. For example, Daignault had a quote where he mentioned that the rotations are going to change, or this was, a couple days ago at training camp. He mentioned the rotations are going to change over the course of the 4 preseason games, basically saying that, what you have in Shea, Lou, and Bagley, he called it the Shea, Lou, Bagley category. You know what they are. You just have to get them what they need. And he mentions like Muscala, Ty Jerome, others have a full body of work, and they can kind of bounce around as well within those lineups. So for Poku, I think there's going to be opportunity for him to kind of be a guy within a lineup. We might see lineups of without Shea and Dort, essentially. You're going to see Poku out there. I'm really curious to see how he looks from a confidence standpoint and a strength standpoint. The offensive end of the floor, is he handling the ball a little more? Is he able to kind of be a de facto go-to scorer when Shea and Lou are off the bench? And then also, I think another critical point, and this one's, again, pretty obvious, but the defensive side. We know that he's gained some core strength. He's gained some lower body strength. How does that translate against NBA-ready, NBA strength guys, I guess, that he'll be going against? So I think Poku is kind of the one that I think is probably the most critical.
Justin, give me somebody else besides Poku that Thunder fans need to watch during Summer League to get a glimpse of their growth.
It's going to be hard because my eyeballs are going to be digitally sewn to Pokuševski, much like they were for most of last season. Aside from him, I'm intrigued, by Isaiah Roby.
Yes. Yep.
All the comments that kind of feel like they came out of left field about Isaiah Roby and how much fun he is to play with and how, good he's looked in training camp. Like, what does that mean? I don't know what to do with that information. So I'd like to see something. And especially given how terrible he was in his first go round in preseason for the Thunder to where we're all predicting his eventual cutting. I don't know. I'm interested to see what he can do. Like what has he added that has made all these Thunder players glow about him? So I'll be watching that a little bit for sure.
I would just say, I was just going to say, in terms of Roby, just like a quick disclaimer, I'm not down on Roby. I mean, we'll get into this. I personally think he'll probably start. I think he'll get a lot of opportunity this season. And I did like a lot of what we saw there, especially towards the end of last season from Roby. But I also know that the group of young guys, especially after this past season, they're very close. And I think there's a little bias there as well, right? Lou's already going to be hyped up, so Shea doesn't have to hype up Lou. Giddey is a 6 overall pick coming in. They don't have to hype up Giddey. Nobody's talking about Roby. I think there might be a little bias there of somebody like a Shea and a Dort trying to, I think Roby has really taken a step, trying to kind of boost him up. That's not to say that Roby hasn't taken a step in general, but I don't know. I think there's a little bias there probably from a friendship point of view.
I think that's totally fair. Silva, who do you got?
I am curious what Trey Mann looks like among other NBA players for a consistent amount of time. I know he was kind of considered a reach whenever Presti drafted him, and we traded away our what would have been our third first-round pick in that draft. So I think Thunder fans were a little bit confused as to why we did that and why we quote-unquote reached to get a guy like Trey Mann. So I'm curious to see what he looks like on the court. What does he offer besides three-point shooting to the team? Saw a video of him on Twitter today shooting, and I guess shot looks really good. But I am curious to see what Trey Mann offers that the guards we already have don't.
I think that's fair. Nobody took Giddey, so I'm going to take Giddey on this one. He's just, there's so many fascinating things about him that I think you'll start to get a little bit of answers to in the preseason. Like when he is on the court, is he the de facto ball handler? If he's out there with Shea, is the ball in Giddey's hands to initiate possessions and Shea is playing off ball? Are they switching back and forth? Is it just grab and go, whoever gets it? Who do they match him up on defensively? Do they let him defend guards who are quicker and he maybe struggles with? Do they put him on bigger types of guys, more athletic types of guys? There's a lot of interesting. Giddey to me he's so important to this team as the number 6 overall pick, and he has such a unique skill set and upside, but he's like this puzzle piece that we just don't know where he goes in the puzzle yet.
Yep.
And I think tomorrow we don't get the answers, but maybe we start to see like, oh, he's on this side of the puzzle or that side of the, we start to get a little bit clearer of a picture, starts to come a little bit more in focus. That's kind of what I'm going to look for in all these preseason games.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be interesting, really, just to see how they make everything kind of fall into place. So we've talked players and what to look for each player. Now, just as the team is concerned, holistically, what are you guys watching for in preseason?
I think lineups is the biggest thing. It kind of like you mentioned, like Jacob, you mentioned Giddey, and like Daignault mentioned his defense 2 different times, being able to guard bigger players, and having the ability to, that versatility that we've talked a lot about. I'm really curious to see how the lineups, I mentioned the quote that Daignault had about the different lineups. I'm curious to see how that looks tomorrow, kind of the different lineups that he throws out there. And then I'm curious to track that and see if that changes at all throughout the rest of the preseason. Because I think as we get later into the preseason and closer to that first regular season game here in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah. I think we're going to see something that resembles more of a normal rotation that we'll see like kind of to start the regular season.
Interesting. Taylor, do you think the 5 that start tomorrow night against Charlotte are the same 5 that will start opening regular season game number 1, with the exception of if I think we believe Derek Favors will start. He might not be available or healthy tomorrow. So with the exception of that, do you think the starting lineup tomorrow night against the Charlotte Hornets in preseason game 1 is the same starting lineup on October 20th?
I don't, just based off
those
the couple quotes that Daignault had. If I had to predict right now, I think it's going to be Shea, Lou, Poku, Bagley, Roby. And if we're talking like starting night, I think there's or opening 9 of the regular season, I think there's a good chance Giddey could slide into that position. And you have a player like Poku coming off the bench. I think probably Poku.
Okay.
I think they'll play Bagley and Favors, potentially Bagley and Roby. We'll see. That's what I'm like really curious to watch.
I think they're going to give Bagley every opportunity he can.
Yep.
Personally, I'm team just throw Poku and Giddey out there together at the forwards.
I agree completely.
That's where I'm at.
That'd be the most fun lineup. Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you guys have as far as things to watch for the team for the preseason?
I'm curious to see, like, do we see any interesting, not plays, but like offensive sets? I know it's preseason and we're probably going to get some very vanilla basketball that mostly resembles a pickup game, but like, is there any little nuggets that we can take away from that? Like, is there a way that, Giddey and Teo play off each other, or Poku and Bagley? I don't know. Like, what are some interesting combos where it's like, oh, okay, there's something there that could maybe be something we see throughout the season. Like I said, I think it's probably going to be a lot of just like glorified pickup. So I don't know that we'll get a ton of that, but I am curious to see, just because of the makeup of the roster, like what are some of these sets going to look like for this team, given the personnel that they have? Like, how are they going to use all these pieces on a roster that's kind of strange in the way that it's constructed? We've talked about it ad nauseum, but so many guards and no centers. Like, how do they take advantage of that? How do they use that throughout the season? I think it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, I want to know what the offense looks like whenever Shea is not on the floor. Like, with Teo's entering his 2nd year, he's got biceps now. Is he more aggressive with his ball handling, with trying to get to the rim? Ty Jerome is healthy coming into this preseason, which he wasn't last year. I think he had a solid year last year. Shot, I think, like 42% from 3. Does he make a leap? Is he more involved in the offense? I think he averaged 3 assists a game. So who gets more reps whenever Shea is not there? As far as, I mean, obviously Giddey is going to handle the ball, but between Teo and Ty Jerome, I wonder how that weighs out.
You know how I feel.
Oh yeah,
I was going to say Jacob would be watching that one too.
Shea, Dort, Ty Jerome, Poku, Bagley, probably the starting 5.
I think, Justin, I think you hit on something really interesting there as far as like the offensive sets and whatnot. Like, I want to see, like, do they use Giddey as a screener instead of the ball handler in a pick and roll?
Yes. or
Do
Poku
they-
or
yeah.
Shea.
Like
Yeah.
a Poku Giddy pick and roll
Oh my
on
gosh.
either side, regardless of who's handling the ball and who's setting the screen, is like incredibly fun. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
It's super weird, but could be fun.
yes. Like, do we see like some inverted pick and rolls where like Poku is handling and Shea sets the screen? Things like
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
I'm excited
Lord have
to.
mercy, I'm about to bust.
I'm, I'm excited to see little just weird wrinkles that they're able to do because of just the sheer amount of skill they have on the team.
I have a new sounder request, Silva, of Jacob saying, I'm excited to see little weird wrinkles.
I'll take
Sorry.
note. I'll take note.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead and rip it.
No, some of those combos, they could be they sound weird, but they could be exciting and possibly good. Kind of like the time that I scooped Fritos in Cool Whip.
What the hell?
Make your own
Okay.
judgments. But if
What?
if you're looking for a food
Pause,
adventure,
hold on.
I have a recommendation.
Why did that even cross your mind?
It's about to say.
Like,
I don't have the answer to that.
how high were you?
In his
Okay.
defense, he did say accidentally.
No, it was more of a situation of not having a lot of other options in the house.
You weren't just feeling the plain corn chip.
Yeah,
so
it
you
was
gotta-
just like, I don't know, sweet and salty. It wasn't bad. Don't knock it till you try it.
wasn't bad.
That's weird, bro.
That's what
That's what this is like.
that's exactly what a Poku Shea pick and roll with Shea as the screener is like. It doesn't make sense, but it might be good.
That's- yeah.
All right.
That is a good point. Like, one thing I keep thinking about is not Fritos and Cool Whip, but is what Presti mentioned and really kept reiterating throughout his press availability here. I guess like what was it, a week ago from this past Friday. He kept mentioning like the season being all about letting these young guys play and seeing what they have and just kind of setting a benchmark for where these players are even at. And so I am curious to see, like, I mean, you have 10 to 12 players of guys that they do want to get a look at. How do you even play all those guys, get them out on the floor to see what you have in them, right? And even give them a chance. And what do those different lineups and things look like? Do we even get any consistency in terms of those lineups and things? Or is it literally just throw the guys out there and see what you have for half the season, and then you start to kind of decide on some of these players? I don't know. It's a big task, I think, for somebody like Daigneault to be able to incorporate all these different players and just, like I keep saying, to see what they have. So yeah,
They might be using the G League a lot.
true.
Mhm.
That's a good point. Good point too.
And that's what's hard is like all these questions are fascinating, but I don't think any of them get answered in preseason.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. But some of them the answer might start to become a little clearer.
Yeah.
In preseason is my big thing.
You make it a
Right.
tease.
Exactly.
I'm also excited to see little things like what has Shea added? How does Dort finish at the rim? I don't know. Does Teo do anything that makes me not want to go to sleep?
Wow. Okay.
Like, there's just going to be some interesting stuff.
Bases
to-
outside shooting.
Yeah,
and just jumper in general.
just
Yeah.
these little things. Like, is Shea going to pull something off where I say, "Ooh, I haven't seen that before"? Shea, is Dort going to do some sort of like crazy like lefty floaters? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of preseason feels like, the time where the vets get to show off what they worked on all summer.
Yeah.
And
That's a
so
good
I'm
point.
excited to get to see
For like the
some of that.
first like 5 or 6 minutes, and then they get
Yep.
yanked.
Exactly.
So
Which in
okay.
our case is kind of fun this year.
Yes. All right, gentlemen. Well, we've kind of broken down what to expect for the preseason. We will be back again Monday night post game, live here on all of our social channels, and also dropping the podcast on the pod feed with, hey, JD Silva is working on a new post game intro for us.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty nice. So make sure you join us. Check out the post game podcast tomorrow after the game. We'll be live here probably about 10 p.m., about 30 minutes or so after the conclusion of the game. So make sure you join us. It should be a blast. With that said, gentlemen, let's move on and wrap up our preseason primer. Last division this week. we're going to talk about the teams out in the Pacific Division. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Our first team, the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors last season ended 39-33, 8th in the Western Conference. They were in that play-in game, that awesome play-in game against Memphis that they ended up losing and getting bounced out of the. No, they lost against Memphis, and then did they have to play a second one? A second play-in game?
Yeah, the Lakers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because LeBron hit
Yeah.
that super deep three.
Yes.
We were watching that together, Jacob.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry, dude, it's been a long time.
Memorable, clearly.
It has been a long time. So still, they lost back-to-back playing games, did not make the playoffs, end up getting 2 lottery picks. And I think their outlook for this next season, much different than last season. Taylor, why don't you go ahead and tell us kind of what all they did over this summer?
So really, this kind of had a small few notable players who became free agents. Kent Bazemore, who ended up signing with the Lakers. Jordan Bell, honestly, I don't even remember where he's at. I want to say it's Minnesota, but I can't remember. Nico Mannion actually became a free agent. That one's kind of interesting. I believe he was on a 2-way last year. And Kelly Oubre Jr., who is going to be playing with Charlotte in OKC tomorrow. So that's kind of fun. And then, like you mentioned, Jacob, Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody were the 2 draft picks for Golden State, which both were, high draft picks, and I think are going to be pretty good for them, playing a large role for them. They picked up Otto Porter Jr. They picked up Andre Iguodala, came back from the Heat. Langston Galloway. They re-signed Jordan Bell. Never mind, I thought he went away. Avery Bradley currently is on like a training camp deal.
That one's fascinating.
Yeah, very. And it sounds like he has a pretty decent shot to getting that last roster spot. I saw today that Gary Payton Jr. or Gary Payton, what the second, the third, whatever he is, the Gary Payton who's playing in the league right now, apparently he had like some like weird hernia deal going on and is recovering from that. And while I think the Warriors have been pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Considerate of that and like watching out for him and stuff. Like there's a good chance because of that, from what I read, that Avery Bradley could get that last spot. So nothing too crazy. Also, they re-signed, or I guess not even re-signed. Steph Curry signed a veteran extension, which is great for them. And then I think the biggest thing of all, right, and this one's kind of obvious, but here at a certain point, probably around Christmas or a little after, Klay Thompson's going to be back. Knock on wood. So, yeah.
Definitely. And coming down the pipeline today, apparently Andrew Wiggins finally got a needle in his arm.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point.
So he is not going to miss 41 games.
Andrew Wiggins finally has good shot selection? Question mark.
Hey, I'm still not convinced.
He pump faked this one about 5,000 times before he actually did it. So
I'm
Money
not convinced
talks.
he wasn't like chained to a chair by Steph and just.
I did see that. I don't know if you guys have seen this on Twitter today. Apparently, maybe on Instagram, Davis Bertans posted something about Jonathan Isaacs saying, we all have a choice. Please respect his. And someone said, this is the first time I've ever seen Davis Bertans defend somebody in the NBA. It was pretty good. So, Golden State, Justin, what are some interesting things you're looking at with them this season?
I think the Clay piece was what I was going to bring up first and foremost, is like, what does he look like? That's a long time to not be playing basketball and to come back from an injury and to get reintegrated into their lineup. And like, is it just instantly light switch, Splash Bros are back, like Golden State's crazy fun again? I doubt it, but that would be really fun if that happened. But like, what does it look like when he comes back to basketball? I think that's one of the biggest question marks. The other one, selfishly, as someone who follows the Thunder and was quite convinced Jonathan Kuminga was going to be possibly a member of the Thunder, I'm curious to see what he looks like during the season. How does he develop? How does he contribute? Does he make me wring my hands and wish that we had him instead of Giddey? Or does it go the other way around where it's like, ooh, okay, we made the right call? So I'll be kind of keeping my eye on that with the Warriors as well.
Is Kuminga older than Giddey?
I think so.
I think so as well. Because
They're
Giddey's
both
really
super young.
Giddey
Yeah.
won't be 19.
I mean, it might be like a matter of days. I'll have to look that up.
Giddey won't be 19 for a little while. I'm interested in the rookies as well, Justin. Last year, they didn't play their rookie like at all. and Wiseman was the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
So does Wiseman get burned this year? Do the 2 rookies from this class get a lot of playing time on this team? Now, over the offseason, the Golden State Warriors revamped their coaching staff to get more developmental type coaches in there to help these young guys out. But you're at this interesting spot where guys like Draymond Green and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, like, it is win right now. But as we know, development is a slow burn process, and you have to take a few steps back in order to take a giant leap forward in development. That's just the way the game works. And so it's like 2 contradictory ideas, and it's going to be fascinating to me how they balance that.
So this is pretty interesting. Jonathan Kuminga, October 6th birthday. 3 days, he'll be turning 19. Now, Josh Giddey, October 10th birthday. And a week from today, he'll be turning 19. So very, very close in age.
I want to see the birth certificate for Jonathan Kuminga.
It's like in Benchwarmers. I is 18.
Oh my God.
So, will you have anything else for the Golden State Warriors here?
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about this. The fact that on the most recent low post, they talked for like 3 to 5 minutes about the 15th roster spot on Golden State. The Gary Payton II versus Avery Bradley scenario. The fact that we have talked and thought about that so much does make me worry about the general depth of the Warriors. I do think they have a very high ceiling if everything works out, but there are just a lot of ifs. You're relying on a lot of young depth if Klay does not really turn out how you want him to be.
That's a good point.
I'm pretty optimistic about Klay though.
Same. Like, if Klay comes back around Christmas, and I don't think he's going to be Klay of old, but is he 90%? Like, I think they mentioned this on the low post. Like, I don't think he's going to be Klay, but I don't think he's going to be like JJ Redick either.
Yeah.
Right? If he falls somewhere in the middle of that, preferably in the top half of that.
If he's Joe Harris.
Yeah.
Maybe more than Joe Harris.
Well, he could be Joe Harris, but a lot better defensively.
Yeah.
True. That's
so here's the big thing. Golden State's over under 48.
Ooh.
Where are you guys landing on this one?
I'm leaning under.
I like that one.
I'm leaning under slightly. Yep.
I was going to say under, but barely. Like
under.
maybe 46.
Wow. Okay. I'll take the over. I feel pretty good on the over on this one. I think they're going to be a really good regular season team.
Okay.
A really good regular season team. And if Klay comes back and they find a groove, watch out. Like,
that's where I think they'll get it clicking. I just worry about
being
those
in the
young
same
players.
division and playing 4 games against both the Lakers and the Suns.
Yep.
That sucks.
True.
But still, I like them a lot. I think they're going to be really, really good. All right. Speaking of, let's move on to a team from LA. Not the Lakers, but the Clippers. Last season, they end 47-25, 4th in the Western Conference. They win their first 2 playoff series, make it to the Western Conference Finals against the Phoenix Suns after just losing Kawhi in the second round and just completely embarrassing Utah. They make it up to the Suns in the Western Conference Finals, but ultimately fall short. The loss of Kawhi just a little too heavy for them. Their season, unfortunately, ends in ugly fashion with Patrick Beverley shoving Chris Paul in the back in the closing moments of that game. Taylor, what all did the Phoenix, or sorry, not the Phoenix Suns. We're talking about the Clippers, here. What all did the Clippers do this offseason?
So the Clippers, I think we probably should just start with their draft. They had a pretty interesting draft, taking a flyer on 2 guys that have potential high upside, but were kind of frowned upon for different aspects of their game. Those 2 players being Keon Johnson and BJ Boston Jr. Reggie Jackson signed a new contract with the Clippers. The big one here is Kawhi. He signed a multi-year contract, a new multi-year deal with the Clippers, which was fascinating because it didn't happen right away. You know, there's all the whispers that, Kawhi could wait, you sign a 1-year deal and then, or like opt into his last contract, then sign a new deal, get more money, whatever. He put all that to rest. He signed I believe it was a 4-year contract with the Clippers. Nick Batum came back on a new deal, and then they acquired Eric Bledsoe and a TPE in return for Patrick Beverley, Daniel Arturu, and Rondo to the Grizzlies. Now we know that Rondo obviously is with the Lakers, Beverley's with the Wolves, but regardless, they were able to get Eric Bledsoe out of that deal. Let's see. They got Yogi Ferrell off of waivers. I actually kind of forgot about that. Ooh, this is kind of an interesting one. Harry Giles. That's a player that we've talked about in the past for the past couple of seasons that potentially could have been like a target that the Thunder could go after in the trade. Harry Giles ended up signing a contract with the Lakers. Hartenstein signed a contract with the Clippers. That's another. I think it's the Lakers. Sorry, the Clippers. That's another interesting big man there. And I'm scrolling up. I don't really see anything else too crazy. Amir Coffey. Coffey is back with the Clippers. It feels like he's been there forever, but he signed a two-way contract with the Clippers. So
there you go. Silva, big takeaways, things you're looking at with the Clippers this season.
I think if they manage to stay healthy, especially if Paul George, I think they're going to make at least, I don't know, the seventh or eighth seed in the West. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. I had thought about that as a possibility when Kawhi was officially ruled out for most of this next season, and then I started to think, okay, where's the Thunder's pick going to fall and things like that. But I think especially Reggie Jackson is going to be a big swing piece for them. The guy averaged 17 3-3 in the postseason, took 7 threes a game and shot 40% on those threes. I am very curious if he can keep that up. He hasn't really kept that up at all his entire career in Detroit. And he wasn't too good the first start of the season, the first half of last season for the Clippers. So can he take what he found in the playoffs and run with it this next season? I don't know. And what kind of Paul George do we see? Guy was fighting his demons on the court almost every night, and most of the time he won. Paul George overall was very good good in the playoffs. I think he kind of overcame the playoff P stuff for the most part. So we'll see what that looks like in the regular season.
Justin, you have anything else?
I think that the LA Clippers are extraordinarily boring. And
they really are.
I just I don't know if it's Paul George, because I kind of felt that way about the Thunder a lot of the times that Paul George was there. I felt that way about the Pacers. It was hard to get excited.
Mm-hmm.
He's fine. He's a great basketball player, but he's not thrilling except for the moments where he takes over. And he's had some of those moments where he could just puts the game on his back and absolutely dominates. But especially looking at the roster now, not having Kawhi, this is going to sound crazy, but not having Patrick Beverley takes a lot of the excitement out. You watch a Patrick Beverley game, you're guaranteed some excitement. Just looking at their projected starters, it's just so dull.
Yeah.
Eric Bledsoe, Batum, Ibaka, Ibaka in 2021. I don't know. They'll be fine. They'll be a good team. Like Silva said, they'll be fine. I don't know that I'll ever be seeking them out to watch them on any given night. That's just kind of how the 2021 Clippers feel to me.
I think you kind of know that, Justin. PG, when he's at his peak, when he's playing at his peak, he can take over a game or finish a game better than almost anybody in the entire league. The issue is the consistency there, whether it be health related or even just him as a player in general, as us Thunder fans are well aware of. And without Kawhi, I'm curious. I don't think he can do that consistently enough. And also to your point, these guys on the Clippers are older. Therefore, I don't think they're going to be a super great. They'll be good enough. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they're going to be a fantastic top 4 seed in the West kind of team. But I think come playoffs, they're all battle tested. And they could be a team that could upset somebody. Definitely a team that one of those top 4 teams won't want to be matched up with in the first round.
I think Thunder fans are very invested in this team because the Thunder owns the unprotected Clippers pick in 2022. It'll be interesting, right? This team, I think you guys have all kind of hit it on the head. They're not super exciting. Silva, I'm with you. I struggle to see Reggie Jackson recreating what he did, especially in a Western Conference that has a metric crap ton of really good guards.
Good defensive guards.
If Paul George misses 20 games this season, which he's going to be 32 this year? If Paul George misses 20 games this season, how many of the games do they win of those 20?
If he misses 20
6?
games this season, we're talking about play-in, probably, right?
Yeah. And if you're the Thunder, you would love that pick to end up as a lottery pick.
Oh, yeah.
You would
Can
love.
you imagine?
Man.
Goodness.
That
Yeah.
would be nice.
So
Ready to have my heart broken two off seasons in a row is what that's setting up for.
it's an interesting one. We'll see kind of what comes with the Clippers. I don't think Kawhi Leonard plays a minute this year. I think he takes the entire season off.
Par
so
for the course.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Clippers over under 44.5.
I think
That's a pretty good one too. That's a good number.
I know. I was gonna say
If Paul
if I
George
said that,
plays 77 games, they're over.
yeah,
But if Paul George misses time, this could be an under pretty easily for me. Like I don't see Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann and what's their center's name?
Zubats.
Zubats.
Yeah.
Like I don't see that team like carrying anybody,
Nope.
like they're going to struggle in the West, especially like I mentioned with Golden State, when 8 of your 82 games are against the Clippers and the Suns, you're going to have a rough time. 12 of them are against the Clippers, Suns, and Warriors.
Oh, that's rough.
So
you bring up a good point too, Jacob. Like even if PG might be forced to play some of those games that he wouldn't have had to play last season, but I think of like the season with Russ when the second season when Melo wasn't there anymore. Like PG was still playing in those games, but we saw dramatic.
He wasn't good whenever the shoulder was hurt. Yeah.
And not just one shoulder; it was both shoulders. So I'm think
taking
you're
a
right.
slight under here.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
they're probably around 41, 42.
I agree, and I probably should have been more optimistic on the Warriors because as we're going through this process, I'm trying to like think of the other teams over unders. I can't just go
You
under
realize
with every
you can't
team.
go under on every single team.
Exactly. Somebody has to win basketball games.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm thinking like 40 wins.
So, but
God,
Justin,
no.
are you guys going over or under on the Clips?
Under.
Yeah, under.
Okay, very good. Let's move on. I think this next one we can probably get through pretty quickly. The Los Angeles Lakers last season, 42-30, 7th in the West. They win their play-in game against the Golden State Warriors. They go up against the 2-seed Phoenix Suns, and they get slapped around a little bit, especially whenever Anthony Davis goes down, which prompted massive changes in Laker land this summer. Taylor?
Oh my, yeah. You said we'd get through this one quickly, but I'm like, just like scroll.
You have Taylor for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. So I'm going to take the next 30 minutes here to talk about Russell Westbrook. Shooter's gone. Markieff Morris is gone. Ben McLemore is gone. Wesley Matthews is gone. THT signed back up. Dudley retired. Andre Drummond gone with the Sixers. It's kind of funny. The Lakers decided they did not want to bring back Alex Caruso, or at least not at what Caruso was wanting. The other players, for example, one the Antetokounmpo or Coomp Bros is gone. Now, this is kind of fun. Boomer Sooner, the Lakers drafted Austin Reeves, signed him to a 2-way contract.
Hillbilly Kobe.
Hillbilly Kobe. Oh, that's such an amazing nickname. I can't believe we didn't know that when he was here in Norman, but pretty incredible. They end up signing Dwight Howard, bringing him back, hence why Drummond no longer is with the Lakers and actually went to the Sixers, funny enough.
I'm going to interject real quick. They also, I don't know if you're just going down the list, but they also lost, because I know you are kind of getting past the losses now.
Yep.
They lost Marc Gasol.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I didn't even, yeah, that's a good
lost
point.
Kuzma, lost KCP.
Oh, yeah, well, and that's in the trade.
Yes. Okay, sorry, continue.
No, you're good. But you're right, though, because Gasol doesn't show up on here because he wasn't necessarily a free agent. But apparently, yeah, that relationship, not great when they brought in Drummond. And so it sounds like Gasol is going to go over and play like with his own team that he has in Spain. They signed Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, Kendrick Nunn, which is a pretty big one. Malik Monk, another solid one. They signed Taylor Horton Tucker to a new multi-year deal. And then, like you mentioned, Jacob, the Russell Westbrook trade. They end up acquiring Russell Westbrook and a couple picks, whatever, for KCP, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, and the draft rights to Isaiah Jackson, all going to the Wizards in exchange for Russ. Kent Bazemore signed with the Lakers, and Melo ends up finally getting to play with LeBron towards the end of their careers. That's a pretty fun one. Rajon Rondo, as I mentioned, DeAndre Jordan signed with the Lakers. I mean, they're deep. They converted Austin Reeves. I'm sorry. They converted him from a 2-way to a multi-year deal now. And, the biggest one of all these, September 29th, they signed a Traveling Queen. I just love that name. I'm pretty sure I messed that up, but I think I like it as Traveling Queen. Signed a contract with the Lakers. Training camp deal.
Justin, let's move quick through this. Thoughts on the Lakers?
They're gonna be really good. I mean, as a Thunder fan watching the Lakers, the Russell Westbrook storyline is obviously the thing to watch. It's the most exciting piece going on. Seeing how Russell fits on any given team, as we've seen in multiple stops since he left Oklahoma City, is obviously going to be something to keep your eyes on, especially with a roster that is constructed as the Lakers are. That'll be very fascinating. They're going to win a lot of games. They're not going to be a fun team to play if you are also trying to win games. And I look forward to seeing what Russ does in a Lakers jersey after enduring 12-ish years of seeing Russ photoshopped into Lakers jerseys. It's one of those things where, art imitates life and life imitates art, and we finally get to see it happen. So I'm excited to watch it.
Silva, anything else there?
I think this goes one of two ways. This goes Russ legitimately steps back into the third best player role. Shoots like I know. Shoots like, now bear with me, 37.5% from three. All right. It's a lot. And they make a playoff run. Or they're like, everything goes wrong, and it's like season 1 of the Night's Watch. It is just all the worst players, all the olds get exiled there, and they're just left to die.
They're just left to die.
Everything you just said about Russell Westbrook has been said on every offseason pod about Russell Westbrook since approximately 2010.
Yeah.
Russell believes he's the best player on that team. Is there any doubt?
Right. Alongside, if there's anybody that can maybe change how Russell is viewing all this, it's LeBron. It's got to be. That same line has been said on every ESPN or Athletic podcast.
The shooting on this team is interesting. If it was 2014, this is a hell of a team. It's not 2014. It is 2021.
Which made that picture of was it Rondo, Dwight Howard, LeBron, Melo, Russ, and AD all together. It was those 6. Oh, it was hilarious.
The image I can't shake with this Lakers team, though, is the Sports Illustrated cover with Steve Nash and Dwight Howard.
I was about to mention that.
Yes.
This is going to be fun. And it's like, that feeling.
Does this end up being the Nash Lakers all over again?
Yeah. That's a good.
That team had Nash, Dwight, and Kobe, and Trevor Ariza.
If I have to bet, I don't think it ends that badly, but it gives me the same vibes.
Yeah, definitely. Question. Well, no, I'll hold this question till the end. Never mind. Let's move on. I have a fun question for you guys, but let's move on to a team that I think we all
over under.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Over under 53.5.
Ooh, that seems high. I want to go under on this one too, because I don't think they're
I'm on the books for over here.
Oh, okay. See, I worry
Russell
about
Westbrook is good for 6 wins on his own. There's going to be a night where LeBron sits and AD sits, and they say, "Hey, Russ, we want you to take a night off." And Russ says, "Hey, here's my ass, kiss it." And then he goes out and goes for 40, 10, and 10, and is dancing all over the court. Russ just does stupid shit that wins games all the time.
Yeah.
He is good to win them a handful of games that
regular season
everyone
games.
else, regular season games where everyone else is sitting.
Good point.
Yeah.
I've got to go over with a team.
You won Taylor over.
I mean, Jazz, Nugget. I mean, yeah. I think I
Justin,
have to go.
Where do you land?
I take the over as well.
Silva?
Give me the over. Malik Monk. He's finally here.
Hey.
He's taking leave. I don't want to hear
THT.
Every word I hear about THT makes me angry. I don't know why. I think it's because that anonymous GM said he might be offered a max. I think that just pissed me off forever.
I think I'm on record as saying THT is just a poor man's Lou Dort. So
yeah.
Next one, a team I think we all kind of have a soft spot for. The Phoenix Suns. 51-21 last year. NBA final. Phoenix Suns. Obviously, they lose in the finals. Running it back, though, as Chris Paul re-ups, Monty Williams, like top 5 human being on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Just an incredible, incredible dude, Monty Williams. Taylor, tell us what all they added and lost this offseason.
So believe it or not, this one actually will be quick.
I don't believe it.
They lost each one more, Langston Galloway and Torrey Craig. They ended up signing former Thunder player Abdul Nader to a new multi-year contract. Former Thunder player Cameron Payne to a new multi-year contract. That was fairly decent for him. I'm pretty happy for Cameron. Chris Paul signed a larger deal with the Suns after opting out of his final season of his previous deal. And then this probably was the biggest splash of their offseason. The Suns acquired Landry Shamet from the Nets in exchange for Javon Carter and the draft rights to Deron Sharp and a TPE. They re-signed Frank Kaminsky. They signed Elfrid Payton. JaVale McGee. Kind of forgot about JaVale McGee there.
He's a big one for them, I think.
That's a pretty interesting one. And then Chandler Hutchinson, who was involved in the Russell Westbrook trade. I believe he was waived. I can't remember which team waived him. I think it was the Spurs. And he was picked up on a 2-way contract by the Suns. Oh, and is it Chasen Randall, player who played for the Blue? Yeah, he signed a contract with the Suns, which I believe is just a training camp deal.
Silva, how do you feel about these Phoenix Suns?
I feel pretty dang good. They have obviously a ton of momentum heading into this season. A lot of the teams that would be battling them that will be battling them at the top, like the Lakers, we just talked about them, potentially could be flawed. The Warriors could be flawed. The Nuggets missing Jamal Murray. The Jazz, their second best player, fraud.
Yes.
So no, I feel good about their consistency. I think Chris Paul, this might be his last like really good Chris Paul year. But I think DeAndre Ayton is on an upward trajectory, and I think maybe he can fill some of that gap in if Chris Paul does take a slight step down. Devin Booker, I'm super high on him. I would like to see where he's at from a consistency standpoint. I know he was kind of banged up through the playoffs, but he was up and down, especially after he got that nose injury. So I want to see what kind of season we get from him.
Definitely. My thing with this Phoenix Suns team, and Silva, I think you alluded a lot to it right there. The Lakers, we know who they are, right? Like, we're not going to see growth out of LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony. Like, face value is what you're getting out of those guys, right? Same thing with those Golden State Warriors guys. Now, will those really young kids step up a little bit? There's a chance, right? But Phoenix, I think, had as far as top Western Conference teams, had the biggest room for growth.
Yep.
Like,
That's
you know what you're going to get from Chris. There's no jump coming from Chris. I would argue there's probably not a jump coming from Devin Booker, maybe marginal increases. But then you look at DeAndre Ayton. You look at Mikal Bridges.
Yep.
Right. You have these guys that are on an upward trajectory. So where have they gone? Yeah. Where have they gone from last year to this year? And is that jump big enough? And can they continue to grow throughout the season where they can surpass those teams like the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers? I think it's really interesting. They have the most room for growth up at the top of the West, I believe.
That's spot on. Spot on. I think I'll just use this opportunity to plug our good friends at the Timeline podcast, the Phoenix Sun podcast, Blue Wire.
Sam might kill it. Go check them out.
They've been putting together this offseason a series of YouTube videos where they go through and actually break down each of these young players and talk about their growth. Because I think they would be in agreement with what Jacob just said. It's all about internal growth for them and for a team that made the Western Conference Finals last year, the finals themselves last year. I think that's promising.
Yep. I think everything you guys said is dead on. I'm curious to see Chris Paul, like what he looks like this year. It's one of those things, just like waiting on Russell Westbrook to change how he plays. You keep waiting on Chris Paul to take a step back. How many more years can he go? Is this the year where like he has like a big drop off? Because usually when that drop off comes, it comes pretty fast.
True.
So curious to see how that plays out throughout the course of the season. But yeah, so much fun to watch, so much young potential. It's what, as a Thunder fan, you hope to be in that position one day where, you suck for a long time, you accumulate assets, those assets grow up into people, and those people turn into pretty good basketball players. And now Phoenix Suns fans are getting to reap those rewards. So as a Thunder fan who's in the early stages of that, it's exciting to watch and root for their success.
Let me tell you guys something for the Suns. If they get full season DeAndre Ayton, like this season, of what playoff DeAndre Ayton was last season, watch out.
True.
Because playoff DeAndre, where he understood he had a role to play and he played that role perfectly.
He dominated that role. Yeah, absolutely.
It was no longer I'm trying to be the best player on my team and be the best player in the NBA because I was the number 1 overall pick. And it was more of an understanding of this is how I fit and this is what I do and this is what I focus on. I mean, was it against the Lakers in that first series where he had like that, caught it at the 3-point line, that 2 dribble, like Euro step, like crazy little finish. Yeah. And it's just like, dude, it's nice. That's insane. Like he guarded Jokic one playoff series and then flipped over and guarded Giannis in another playoff series. Like,
true.
If they get playoff DeAndre for a full season, watch out.
Yep.
I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. Over under here, 51.5.
This is one I'm going over from the very beginning.
I'm going over as well.
Over.
Yep, I'm on the over as well. I think it's going to be a really fun team. I can't wait to watch them.
Also, in my day job, I've been getting to do some work with the Phoenix Suns, and I'm already angling to try and get an expenses paid business billable trip to see a Suns game.
If you need an and one, just holler at your boy.
+1.
Our last team of the night, our last team of this preview series, save the Oklahoma City Thunder, which we'll do that one coming up. The Sacramento Kings. Last season, the Kings ended 12th in the West, 31-41. Go guess it. They missed the playoffs once more. Who would have thought? It's an epidemic out there in Sacramento. Taylor, tell us what the Kings did this offseason.
So, in typical Kings fashion, they did not have a very sexy offseason. They
nearly traded their player and then didn't trade their player and to make their player even more pissed off.
Yes, exactly.
So Kings.
Very, very Kings. Lost Whiteside, lost Kyle Guy and Terrence Davis, I believe. They drafted Davion Mitchell, which is kind of a surprise with their draft pick, but I do like that player. They signed Rashawn Holmes to a new multi-year contract. Terrence Davis, they did not lose him. They signed him to a new multi-year contract. They got in on the Tristan Thompson trade. They acquired Tristan Thompson in exchange for DeLon Wright. There was more with that trade, but that's essentially what it was for Sacramento. They signed Mo Harkless back to a multi-year deal. Alex Len signed a multi-year deal with the Kings. Yuck. And Justin James was signed on August 15th and then was waived on August 17th.
Love it.
A bunch of names I never heard of, like Emmanuel Terry, Matt Coleman III, and DJ Stewart signed contracts with the Kings for their training camps. And yeah, that's about it.
Justin, how you feeling about the Kings in Kingsland?
Well, I'm really looking forward to them making a deep playoff run centered around Ben Simmons. Should be exciting. No.
If you were the Kings, would you trade for Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can make it.
Absolutely.
Would you trade Fox for Ben straight up?
No.
That's the thing. Are you willing to trade Fox or one of my favorite players in the league, Hallie?
See, the hard part of that question is where you said if you were the Kings. And I can't get to that headspace, so I'm not sure. The Kings, there's nothing to get excited about. There's nothing that happened in the offseason that makes you think this year is going to be any different. It's gonna be a lot more the same. I'm curious to watch the Buddy Hield drama. It's very clear that he doesn't want to be there, and doesn't seem like they want him back. But they also are keeping him. I don't
because
know.
Russ came in last minute and was like, whoa.
I bet they
Yeah.
trade Buddy
I'm
this
gonna go to the
season.
Lakers.
They should.
I
I
feel
think
pretty,
so, too.
pretty strong about that.
Yeah.
So you can watch for that, I guess. De'Aaron Fox is fast. Marvin Bagley would be a good Thunder prospect.
Did you hear
about all I got.
that Luke Walton, in talking about Bagley in training camp, said, well, he had a career year last year.
Oh,
Which technically is not wrong.
Wow.
Scraping the bottom
yeah,
of the
he
barrel
played the
there.
most minutes
Yes.
he's ever played.
God damn. Can you imagine?
I stood about
That's
18
sad.
inches away from Luke Walton at Summer League for about 5 minutes, and it took about 4 minutes and 52 seconds to realize it was Luke Walton. He just looked like some dude. He had like a trucker hat on. I don't know. It didn't click.
Heck yeah.
It took a while.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
fair.
The Kings are going to be weird.
Yeah.
Not good. I think they trade Buddy. I think you got to look at trading Harrison Barnes.
Yep,
Maybe
I
just burn
agree.
it down and restart it. Although a lineup of Fox, Hallie, Mitchell, Barnes,
Oh my gosh.
and
Okay, speaking
Rashawn
of that,
Holmes. It's a fun lineup.
speaking of that, and speaking of Walton, did you guys hear his quote about that 3-guard lineup? Again, paraphrasing here. Actually, I didn't even read it. This was just like when I was listening to the Hoop Collective. But basically, it was like
You're aggregating an aggregator.
You want
I
to
Yeah,
hear this
I'm-
quote I didn't
I'm the
read?
multi-aggregator, right? The epitome of NBA Twitter right here. Basically, it was like
I heard
asked about
ivermectin works as well.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I guess Walton was asked about the 3-guard lineup of Mitchell, Halliburton, and Fox, and was like, "Yeah, that's going to be a great lineup. I'm really excited about it." But you know what? I'm also excited for is a lineup of Mo Harkless and Mitchell and somebody else like in the second unit. And it was just like, "Oh my god, the Kings
Tone deaf.
can never."
Yeah.
Yes, just terrible.
Kangs got a Kangs.
Ugh.
They got to do it. 36.5 for the over-under here.
Oh, give me that under.
Under.
Yeah.
Under. Why
I'll
not?
always take the under with the Kings.
What is, I need to look.
They'll be at the same spot that they were last year, where they're like right there for a potential playing spot. They'll have some internal growth and guys like Halliburton and Fox, but there's just nothing else there, and the team just can't put a competent team around those two players.
You mean they're going to be too good to get a top
good
5
draft
pick, but too bad to
make the playoffs?
bottom out?
This guy.
Classic.
This
Yep.
guy. I will say, if you want a reason to watch the Kings, Davion Mitchell should be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Tyrese Halliburton is one of my favorite guys
Yeah.
in the league. I
Yeah.
love that kid.
And I
They-
love Fox too.
There's fun pieces, but the pieces don't always fit together. They don't
Yeah.
always turn into
They're
a
pieces
puzzle.
from completely different puzzles.
Right. Yes. So why not slap Ben Simmons, the puzzle piece that doesn't actually fit in any puzzle? Just go ahead and put him in there too.
100%. The Kings, so you guys all went under at 36.5. It's interesting. The San Antonio Spurs are at 29.5. What's the better team?
Ooh. I actually kind of think the Kings at this point.
I think the Kings have the better roster.
They do.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I don't know if they're the better team.
That's a fair point.
I
From
think
a
the
roster
Spurs are going to be
standpoint.
pretty bad though.
Yeah, Spurs ain't going to be good. So here's the question I was going to ask earlier. Is the NBA champion for the 2021-22 season in the Pacific Division? Or
That's a good
would you
question.
bet on that? I mean, you have Phoenix, you have the Lakers, you have Golden State. Obviously, Brooklyn is like the odds-on favorite to win the title. But I think after Brooklyn, you have Lakers, Phoenix, Golden State, and Milwaukee kind of in that tier 2.
Mm-hmm. Utah. maybe
Would you
Denver,
rather
another
would you
tier.
rather take the Pacific Division or the field for the NBA title?
the field?
Taking the
No
field.
question.
My bias wants to say take this division, but I will say the field.
I
Like
think
last year, I might have taken the Pacific Division because of Kawhi.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But basically, we're talking about just the Lakers.
when
and-
Kawhi
and,
is
I mean,
healthy,
Golden
is this
State-
the best division in basketball? Yeah,
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yep.
I think
good point.
easily.
From top to bottom. Yeah,
You
That's a
have
good point.
4 great teams and then the Suns.
Yeah.
You mean the Kings?
The Kings.
Sorry, the Kings.
Like,
are one of
Suns
the
are
great teams.
great.
Old
My bad.
habits.
My bad. Yes. Awesome. All
That's
right.
a good
Well,
point.
guys, that wraps up our season preview series. We will do the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2 weeks because next week we do my favorite part of the year, the bets. So
I can't wait.
you gentlemen get your bets ready to go.
Yeah, I need to start jotting them down. I have some
It'll be-
league-wide ones too. I want to run by
Oh
you
yeah.
guys.
Oh yeah. So any other thoughts before we get out of here?
Basketball tomorrow, preseason or not, I'm just very happy and excited.
What's the one thing, Justin, that could happen tomorrow night that's going to get you up out of your seat, acting a fool in your living room?
Allergies and all.
Josh Giddey throwing a 3/4 court behind the back pass to Poku, who slams it off the ground, off the backboard, into the hands of Shea, who throws it off the backboard again to Lou Dort, who does a 1.5 front flip dunk.
It's very specific.
That
I feel like
will
that's
get,
the kind of
that
shit
will
they
get
do
me
with
off the
those
couch.
trampolines at halftime.
Exactly.
If we do get the mythical double behind the back pass by the two white guys in this game, I'm going to lose it.
We're going to nickname this team the Thunder Globetrotters. I mean,
you guys are going to
It's like
see
a solar
me.
eclipse.
Yeah, you guys are going to see me on the stream tomorrow because I'm going to be the jackass with no shirt
taking
on,
the shirt off,
helicoptering it over my head.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh, dude, if I get a Josh Giddey behind the back to Poku behind the back to a Lou dunk, woo!
His shirt won't be the only thing that's flying off.
Silva, cue the outro music.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast tonight. We appreciate you. If you're on the live stream, it was hopping again. We appreciate you guys. If you're downloading the pod version of this, hey, thanks so much for checking out the show. Drop a 5-star rating while you're at it. That'd mean a ton to us. Helps more people see the show. And hey, don't forget, join us Monday night post game right after the Thunder take on the Charlotte Hornets. We will go live right here on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Then immediately drop the podcast on all of our podcast platforms. Get your question in. Talk about the game. Just come chill. It's going to be a blast. You guys have a great Monday. Enjoy. Basketball is back. We cannot wait. Hang out with the Uncontested all season for all of your OKC Thunder coverage. Check out SI Thunder as well for even more Thunder coverage. We will talk to you guys in about 24 hours. Until then, and as always, Thunder up!